Trump administration wants to bribe women to have children with $5,000. That's right. For less than the cost of one trip to Disney World, the Trump administration thinks it can single-handedly fix the declining birth rate that has been falling for decades. This is the man that thinks he's going to incentivize women to procreate. The U.S. birth rate, much like the Dow Jones under Republican presidents, has been steadfastly retreating downwards for the last several decades as women have decided they don't want to have children. Perhaps you've heard the speculation about the mystery of the declining U.S. birth rate. I am here today to explain that mystery, because there is no mystery at all. But Cece, Simone, and Malcolm Collins, who floated this idea first to the White House, they are pro-natalists, and I had no idea that was a thing, which means that they want people to have babies, and they do everything they can to remove impediments to people having babies. It's just as insufferable as it sounds. So I opened a new note, and it says, "Things that make having babies a somewhat reasonable and responsible decision," by Casey. First, and I feel like it's strange that I have to explain this, affordable healthcare. And obviously prenatal and postnatal care. Because obviously you want women in the best shape and condition to be a vessel for the child that you want her to bring into this world, right? But when she has the baby, she's going to need childcare. So she's got to have accessible childcare. Which means she's going to have a lucrative career because she's going to have to pay for that childcare and also that healthcare that you don't seem to want to pay for. So she's going to have to go to school or get some kind of career training in order to have a lucrative career. So she'll likely incur some student loan debt. But she won't want to have student loan debt when she has a family. She's going to have to pay off that college or career training debt that she'll inevitably incur because education isn't affordable in this country. And to do that, she's going to need there to be a reasonable cost of living, right? Like products, goods, and services need to be affordable in order for her to use that money to pay off that student loan debt or the career training debt that she got in order to get the lucrative career, in order to get the childcare, in order to get the healthcare that she needed to have a baby. She has to obtain housing somehow, right? Where she's going to put this big family that you want her to have. She's got to have a big house. Who's going to pay for that? Well, the mortgage company, but she needs to have interest rates that are reasonable and housing insurance. I mean, unless her boomer parents are just going to evacuate from their home and leave it for her. That's not going to happen. With all of this stress that the mother has incurred, we need to talk about mental health. Most people can agree that this is a lot of things on one person's plate, so we have to talk about stability in terms of mental health. And part of having stability in mental health is obviously having affordable healthcare. I would put it in that bucket. I'm not sure you would. But the other part is having an identity outside of motherhood. For a person to be truly happy, they have to diversify themselves. They have to have friendships and relationships outside of the one they have with their partner and their children. They need to have hobbies and interests that don't align with their children because they are their own person. Because women don't become mothers and suddenly become one-dimensional people. I know that's very contrary to the white men podcast that you keep producing and all the laws you keep passing that say that we don't have autonomy over our own body. That all flies in the face of this. So obviously we're going to need a village. And actually, let's stop calling it a village because a village isn't going to be enough to deal with all of this that you've put on the plates of women in this timeline. Let's call it the whole ass society that needs to be behind women, that needs to be protecting women, that needs to be uplifting women, that needs to stop competing with women. Dare I say, an embrace of the concept of feminism? Quite frankly, I'm not sure you could incentivize women with a whole army just dedicated to their needs at this point in the game. And I know this from personal experience because I got pregnant with my first child months before Trump was elected the first time. Back when we thought we had hope and happiness. And before Trump was even elected this time, my mom and I had a conversation last year where I said I wouldn't have chosen to have children if I knew things were going to be like this. That I felt it was irresponsible and unfair. And the horror that came across her face as if she didn't have any part in all of these things. It's everyone's responsibility in society for child rearing. Even if you're not raising children, you're paying taxes that pay for services that help those children. Politicians that you vote for that make policies that make the world a better or a worse place, that's also dependent upon you. Everyone has ownership in this. Why do you think they say it takes a village? Women don't have a village right now. Women don't have a whole lot right now, and what they do have, they've made for themselves. So stop being surprised and shocked by this US birth rate curve that's trending towards the Titanic, because of course women aren't having children in this timeline. And of course, women aren't going to be incentivized by $5,000 to have babies when they're so disproportionately saddled with responsibilities of protecting their children from predators, infectious diseases like measles outbreaks, school shootings. And instead of spending time to institute policies that actually help women bear the weight of motherhood, your politicians are posting nonsense like this, insisting that they align with our values. Wait, how are you protecting women? What do you mean? Posting things like this isn't protecting women. It's not providing any type of resources for us. You're just hating really loudly, and it doesn't make us better parents or better people or a better society. So if you really want women to have babies, if you really want to improve the birth rate in this country, if you want to save civilization, why don't you save civilization? Why don't you actually start legislating things that matter to people, like affordable, universal health care, like access to mental health care benefits, regulating the insurance companies and the pharmaceutical companies that are charging outrageous prices for things that cost them pennies on the dollar. Insulin should be free. School and education should be free, all the way through to career training. Stop garnishing wages for student loans. These aren't progressive ideals. This is what makes a civilization thrive. And if you want babies, then you're going to have to bring that to us. Bribe us with that.